Tonight, my guest is Dotun Akande, founder and director of Patrick Speech and Language Center in Lagos. Blessed with a son with autism, Dotun turned this adversity into a story of triumph by founding a center which now helps hundreds of people with autism in living meaningful life. Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, and welcome to this segment of your show. Like I said in the introduction, my guest today is Dotun Akande, who is the founder of the Patrick Speech and Language Center here in Ikeja, Lagos, in Nigeria. Dotun, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Dotun, I've been looking forward to this conversation because you're a lady who pioneered a whole area of work here in Nigeria and dealing with children with autism, trying to provide services that will help parents who have such children to be able to not only cope, but see their children thrive.
Thrive.
But it wasn't just for you a business model or a philanthropic move, it was deeply personal.
Yes.
Because you had your first child and then your second child and you were faced with an issue. When did, in the stage of the birth or pregnancy of your second child, did you realize there was a difference? There was something not quite the same?
It actually happened when he had already developed to a particular age. He was about, I think it was about 18 months that we realized that something was wrong. He met all his milestones. He sat at the right time. He crawled at the right time. He walked just a few days after his first birthday. He had words. He even said up nepa.
So he looked normal.
Yes,
everything was the way you
was
expected
fine.
to be.
I mean, he said daddy. I mean, I struggled to say mom. Say mom. I heard you. Come on, say mommy. and the boy just went on to daddy. And so we were quite, we were amazing. It was my first son. My first pregnancy was a girl.
Yeah.
So I had a daughter, and then the son came rolling. You know how we Africans have the son. So the son came rolling, and then we were expecting everything beautiful. And I didn't realize until it was getting close to about 24 months that these words were not increasing. And as a matter of fact, the ones he had dropped.
Wow.
So we were wondering, what is this? And I remember then I spoke to my sister, and my sister said, oh, don't worry. Stop saying what you shouldn't say. You know how Christians, we
confess positively.
Confess positively. Stop putting negative confession. I said, okay.
Let me confess.
But you know, the mother's instinct is always there. So I took him to the hospital though, and they said, oh, Mrs. Akande is a boy. Boys talk late. Don't worry yourself about it. He will outgrow it. 2.5. We are still waiting for the words to come. So one day I was so blessed. I went back to the hospital, but this time I met another pediatrician. She had a child on the spectrum, so she knew the signs. She knew the signs, because my son will want something. He will run to me and then start running all over the place. He would take our shoes and he would line everything up in a straight line. You kick one off, he will quickly go back and, align it. And I found it really strange. He would wear his clothes the other way around. He wouldn't be able to tell front from back. And he was always pacing, And you would speak to him. He understood some of the things we were saying, but he could not apply it. So everything just became like, like the spirit's world is coming down to earth. So it looked really strange, but I didn't give up. So when I met this lady, she said to me, Mrs. Akande, there is nothing available in Nigeria. All you are seeing is your son, who wouldn't look you in the eyes, who didn't have eye contact, is what we call autism. I said, first of all, I was a bit relieved that I wasn't going crazy, because it felt like I was going crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I was seeing something and everybody was telling me, what you're seeing is just not there. You know, so I now said, okay, so now that we now know that it has a name, where do we go from here? So she said, there's nothing available in Nigeria. You have to take your child abroad to go and seek intervention. And if you say they're abroad to my husband said, hey, where is the money to go abroad? Number one. Number two, my work is here. So I'm going to leave this one and then go to no, I'm not going to be washing toilets in the abroad. Let's tackle whatever we can manage here. So she said to me, I'll give you a speech and language therapist. But every other thing you have to do on your own. So she gave me this lady called Auntie Grace. And Auntie Grace used to come to the house 3 times a week to work on my son's speech and to help him to regain the speech that he had lost. And then I went to the school. I told the school that this is what we are facing, this is the challenge my son is facing. Please, after school, can he be taken out of the classroom and then attended to one-on-one for maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour? We will pay the extra cost. And the school agreed. And then at home, I decided to help him with self-help skills. You will take my son to the barber. He will cry from the minute he sees the clipper till the barber finishes barbing his hair. He could not stand the clipper on his head. You would take him to a party. The only thing my son will eat is jollof rice. He will take the fish, put it aside. Take the meat, put it aside, and focus on the jollof rice and focus on the beans. Fanta, we throw it to one side. Any soft drinks at all, my son will not go near it. And, you know, so it was a complete new life for me. And me being a very strict mother, I'm very strict with my children. I said to him, Oga, your hands are working. Your legs are working. Because there's no facial presentation that tells you that something is wrong. It looks like maybe there's the possibility you will not go to school. It's okay. There are people that didn't go to school that made it in life. You are going to play piano. The church is always looking for organists. Abi? So I went to Muzon's center. I got their music curriculum for piano playing. I got a piano teacher to come to the house. That's how we started. This boy did not pick up speech until he was 5 years old.
That's when he started talking.
That's when the speech came back. All this intervention that we put in place from 2.5 till he was 5. And I remember that day was my birthday, sometime in November. I went to church. And it was a very sad day. I kept crying that, God, why me? Why did you give me this kind of challenge? This boy, when I had him, I brought him to the altar. I prayed, I did everything. Why did you give me? If this boy doesn't talk, I'm not coming to church again. No. Honestly, I will not come to church again. You know, I was so devastated. But you know, when you are in that state, in 24 hours, if God ministers, you would have forgotten. So I forgot. I kept doing my normal thing. I was doing my things. In fact, I actually traveled just a few weeks after that. And when I came back, my son came to me, and the first thing he said was, I want my pencil. A boy that was not speaking. I want my pencil. I said, God, I'm sorry, I will come back to church. I will go back to church. And for the next 6 months, that boy did not say anything again.
Wow.
So I just believe that was God just telling me that, you, this lady, go and rest. My plans are not your plans. My ways are not your ways. I have plans for this boy. And that's how we started. Came back again. Take, give, cup, water. That's how we now started all over again. We started with the small words. After a while, it began to join the words. It began to... And then we found out something very interesting. In all the time that this boy was not speaking, in class, when they give them math problem, he will solve the math problem. He's not talking yet, he's learning. So everything became like a mirage to us. And we found that he had, anywhere we are going, he would take a piece of paper and pencil, and he would be drawing. We were looking, what is this boy drawing? What is this boy drawing? For a long time, we could not decipher it. And then one day, we just looked closely. We found out that all the electric poles on the way he was drawing it. Then he would be solving maths problem every time. So we said, okay, well, it looks like this piano, you are going to play it. And also, you are still going to go to school. That's fine. We will support you in your area of strength. He struggled with English. He struggled with anything that had to do with summary, reading. He struggled with writing. If he writes his name like this, the letters will be so big, so massive, up till primary 6. So when we got to primary 6, we found out that he could do the math very well, even though he struggled in other things. Maths, ICT, music, and there was also one other thing. I think it was arts. He did well in that. But English, literature, you cannot find it there. He would really struggle. So when he got to secondary school, when we got to year 9, where he had to pick his subjects. He picked physics, chemistry, biology, maths, add maths, ICT. When the results of his IGCSE came out, he had A's. The only C he had was English. He still struggles with English and comprehension. So we just asked him. By this time, his speech had evolved. He was already talking. He wasn't he's still not a talker. He will say what he wants to say to you, and that's it. But he could request, he could tell us what was going on in his life and everything. So when he got to that stage, we decided to keep him for 1 year after his IGCSE. I needed him to learn how to drive. I needed him to learn banking, how to use ATM card. I needed to teach him how to cook because he was now going off. Before then, a year before he finished secondary school, I put him in boarding school just to ensure that he could cope on his own, so that when he gets outside of wherever he's going to go, he would be independent of me, independent of everybody, and he would be able to understand the system. So we decided to send him to the US to study. And we asked him, what do you want to study? He said mathematics. So we started looking for schools. Unfortunately, we got a school who gave him a scholarship, to come and study mathematics. So in the middle of, so we put him in the university. He was in the hostel. After 2 years, we moved him out for him to be able to live independently. We put him in an apartment and allowed him to be able to pay his bills. Because what happened, something very interesting happened. In the university, they quickly realized his love for maths. Immediately, they saw that he was unique in mathematics. They now got those struggling with mathematics either in the lower year or in the upper year, and they got him to start to tutor them. So they started paying him. So he was earning a salary right from the beginning of his university. Very interesting. So we started teaching him, with your money, you need to be able to pay bills. We got him into an apartment, and he started paying his bills. He will pay his water bill, he will pay his light bill at the right time. And because they learn via routine. Routine is what helps them understand this, our world, that we are constantly changing this and that, saying one thing and then understand doing the other thing. So we got him quickly into that routine, and he quickly adapted and got into that routine. And also I put him in driving school before he left, so that he could learn how to drive on his own. So we started with independent living, and then quickly he was able to learn. On this social date, he will pay his bill. On social dates, he will pay his bill. If he struggled, we would help him with some of the struggles. And quickly, he learned how to manage himself. When he finished in the university, he came out with a first class in mathematics. And immediately, the university, we looked for a university for him to be able to do his master's. They said, oh, he can go straight to PhD. He went straight to PhD in mathematics. And immediately he started his PhD. Of course, the university took him on, employed him. So there was never a time he was out of job. He was working all the time, providing for himself, managing himself. And
right now, where is he?
He's
finished the PhD.
He's finishing his PhD in another, I think, 5 days or 7 days.
Wow.
So his graduation is next
So
month.
by the time this is airing, he would have graduated. And if we could get it, we'll get a picture of him
His
on the screen,
yes.
just to say glory to God. And at what point of this whole saga, this whole journey, did it come onto you that, look, I'm doing something here with my son, I need to do this for other people? Where did the Patrick, and his name is Patrick, by the way, where did the vision of Patrick Speech and Language Center, when did it come up? At what point did it come up?
Okay, I studied economics and I was working in a bank. So throughout all this journey, I found myself leaving work at some point to care for him. I thought maybe I didn't give him enough attention. You know, I would leave the home very early in the morning, come back late in the evening. I felt maybe as a mother, I needed to be closer to him, you know, to be able to get him to do what, to get him to speak and to get him to do self-help skills. Because we struggle with self-help skills. Brushing his teeth was a chore. We struggled through it, teaching him how to wear his shoes, put on his shorts. He would wear his shorts skewed to one side, he wouldn't mind. So I just thought I needed to do that. So I stopped working, I opened a store, I started selling clothes. And then one day I was actually in my bathroom, and the Holy Spirit just ministered to me, start a center. I said, start a center. So that evening, the speech and language therapist came in. So I said to her, Auntie Grace, I'm thinking of starting a center. She said, Madam, it's needed. There's nothing available in Nigeria for others. So I said to her, are there other parents out there that have children like Patrick's? And she said, of course, there are many. I see many of them. So I said, can you give me some of their numbers? Let me even call them and talk to them and find out if maybe we can share ideas. So she said, okay, I will ask if I can share their numbers. So she shared 1 or 2 numbers with me. So I called. I said, oh, madam, my son has autism and I understand that Auntie Grace is also working with your son. No, my son doesn't have autism. No, my son is just late. It's not autism.
I reject it in Jesus'
and
name.
they did there was no parent that was willing to share with me. And I thought to myself, I can't be the only one in this whole Nigeria that has a son on the spectrum. So when I said to her, she said, oh, madam, it's needed, and I will support you. And I also went back to the pediatrician that gave me the diagnosis. I said, madam, I'm thinking of opening. She said, oh, yes, it's needed. So I spoke to my husband, and my husband said, okay, let's see how we can go about it. But with this, your banking career, you cannot open a center. You have to go and train, go and learn how to work. And with just your son, this is the only one you have seen. No. So in 2015, he encouraged me to go and learn how to manage children with autism. So I started training. I went to National Autistic Society in the UK. They gave me a list of trainings that I needed to do. So I went. Then I went to a school in the US. The school is called Eden. And the woman there, Ann Holmes, lovely lady, she opened the center to me and said, oh, you can volunteer, come and see what we do at the center. So I would go in, I would see how they are managing the children, I will see the kind of programs they have for the children. That was when we now came back. I now came back to Nigeria. So I was coming and going. And then we now opened the center in 2016. When we opened that center in 2016, and I started to write about my son's story in the papers, come and see the influx of parents, the barrage of parents that were calling me to say, oh, I have a son. There was even a lady that called from the north. She said, madam, I have a son, but my entire community does not know that my son exists because we never bring him out. He's always in the room. And I said, is there a way I can help? He said, no, the culture does not allow me to be able to expose him to that. So I spoke to her a few times, and after a while, that knocked off. So that was how the center became the first autism center in Nigeria.
Wow.
It's not that people didn't have autism or there were not other people managing autism in Nigeria. It's just that we were specific, we were intentional that we were not going to do cerebral palsy, we were not going to do
anything else.
Physical disability, we're not going to do visual impairment, we are only going to do autism because that was what I knew and that was what I wanted to focus on. And I know I could tell from my own experience and from the experiences of others that I've seen that there is something very unique about individuals with autism. If you look beyond their challenges and find the strength that they possess, they come out really, really strong, and they thrive in their place of strength.
Just like your son has done.
Just like my son has gone, and he's not the only one. During our journey into Patrick's, a young boy was introduced to us at 21. He struggled with speech. He could barely manage himself in the area of self-help skills. He did not have any skills, educational or otherwise. And then we said to him, would you like to try the piano, playing the piano? That boy learned to play the piano in 6 months. So they have amazing skills. If he comes here and I will play the national anthem for you, you give him a piece, he can read music. The young man can now read music, and he would play to that tune. So he even acted in a film called A Tune Away. So you find what makes this individual tick, and then you support them. So now we can now describe, okay, what exactly do we say what autism is?
That's where I was going to go to. What is it? For those who
those who are watching, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects children in 3 major areas at the beginning, but now they've added a 4th area. In the area of communication, meaning the child doesn't speak, or even if they speak, sometimes they wait on a particular subject and repeat it over and over again. Sometimes they are at the echolalic stage, they repeat everything you say. You say, what is your name? The child will say, what is your name? So they have challenges in speech and communication. They have challenges in behavior. So you find that the child sometimes is hyperactive, is moving from one place to the other, is running around or lining objects up or looking from the corner of his eyes, trying to get a 3D effect of everything he sees. In the area of social skills, they don't play with other children. They tend to want to play alone. They are isolated from others. If you put them with their peers, you find out that they withdraw from the peers and they go into a corner and play on their own. And in the 4th area, which is sensory dysfunction, meaning they are either oversensitive or undersensitive to light, sound, taste, touch, and sometimes the environment. So these are some of the signs that you see. A lot of times, the red flags could be that the child is not looking at you, does not have eye contact. Every time you call his name, he doesn't answer. Every time you go into a shopping mall, he has a meltdown. You find the child, struggling. You find sometimes that he's inattentive in class, is always daydreaming. In a place where everybody is going in a certain direction, is going in the other direction. You find that sometimes the child is always looking for a way of escaping from whatever environment you have put the child into. So those are some of the red flags of autism. So once you see that the child gets to a stage of 2 to 3 years, the speech is not coming, the attention is not there, the hyperactivity is increased, the child has problems with eating, gut issues. Sometimes you find that they cannot cope with certain types of food. So those are things that will tell you that something is not quite right and you need to seek support.
Now, Patrick's Speech and Language Center serves as this form of support for parents facing this.
Yes.
Could you just briefly tell us exactly how that's support, in what form it comes?
So at Patrick's, what we do is that we have all the areas of autism intervention covered. So I start with when the person comes in. When the child comes in, we ask if they have a diagnosis. If they don't have a diagnosis, we refer them out to do a diagnosis and to do a hearing test. The reason why we insist on hearing tests is that many of our children appear deaf. When you call them, they don't answer to their name. But if you want to know if the child is hearing properly, if he likes a particular cartoon, you play it and you reduce it to the minimal tune. If the child runs to that environment where the cartoon is being played, then you will have an idea that the child is hearing. But we always insist that you get the child's hearing done, hearing test done. So once the hearing test comes out normal, we now start our own skill assessment. So we do an assessment, finding out where is this child developmentally. So if the child is 10, which is the ages we usually get them in Nigeria, because it's not my portion, it's not my portion, it's not my portion, till the child grows into a man, and then they start looking for help. So when the child comes to us, we now look at where is this child developmentally. The child is 10. At 10, he should be able to converse, he should be able to speak, he should be able to interact, he should be able to have social behaviors that are not, that the society is accepting. Once we see that this is outside of the box, we know something is not quite right. Then we now start our intervention. At the center, we have behavioral technicians, we have occupational therapists, we have speech coordinators. We don't have speech therapists because speech therapists are very few and far between. So what we have done at our center is we have gone ahead to certify our center as a communication-friendly setting. So everybody working in Patrick's is trained to be able to access speech and language therapy, to teach speech and language therapy to our children at the center. So whether the person is a specialist or even those that are below the cadre, those are our nannies that support us. They also have to get the training of being able to teach communication programs to our children. So we also have the listening skills that we do with the children. We have music therapy, we have art therapy, and we have a very strong vocational unit where we use to support the older children that come into our setting, because sometimes we get them at a very old age. The oldest person that we have seen come into our center came in at 35.
Wow.
He's now 40, I think he's now 43. And of course, he doesn't use, he's non-verbal. I would say he's non-verbal, I would say he's partially verbal, because if he's boxed in, he will say what he wants. You know, so those are skills that we use to draw them towards us. And then when they are drawn towards us, we now begin to infuse our therapy in their programs, because we allow them to lead. If we miss that window of allowing them to lead us into their own world, we will not be able to give them the right therapy that is needed to support their needs. And by the way, autism is an individualized disorder, meaning that if you've seen one person with autism, you've seen just that one person. What the intervention that you draw up for that one person is not the same intervention you draw up for the next person. They have different strengths and different challenges. So every child at Patrick's has what we call the individualized educational plan. The IEP is drawn up so that we can meet that child, and our progress report is drawn up every three months. We go back and look at what progress we have made. Did our intervention work? Do we need to change the way we intervene with the child? Do we need to put some other things in place to support the child? Do we need to step down our intervention to allow that child to be able to learn? Did we prescribe the intervention plan to him? So those are the questions we keep asking ourselves, and we keep fine-tuning until we get the children to a level at which we can integrate them either into the society or into mainstream school.
Wonderful. Now tell me, so we have somebody watching and they are recognizing that this is what they have at hand, but they don't have access to come to Patrick's. What do you advise as what they can be doing right now?
All right. Speaking about that, we have a very strong community that is outside of Patrick's, and that is because therapy, as we know it, is very expensive, and not all parents will be able to afford therapy for their children. So we advise every time that if you have a support group, so we're looking at outside of Patrick's now, even outside of Nigeria now, if you have a child that has some of the red flags that we have mentioned here, find a support group in your environment. That's the first step. Then find people that work with children in your community that have a knowledge about children with autism. Approach them and see how they can give you the support. If that is not also visible, you can go to our website. On our website, we have a number there that you can call and ask to join our parent support group. It's a WhatsApp group.
Wow.
Anybody from anywhere in the world can join that group. And in that group, what happens is very unique. Every day, somebody is on that platform, either from about 4 p.m. to 7 or 8 p.m., answering parents' questions and teaching them skills they can use in the home environment to support their child. Because autism is so unique and is so multifaceted that you cannot use one way to teach every child.
It's personalized.
It's personalized.
What do you say to the thing of, like you mentioned over and over, we as Christians, we kind of say, we'll pray this thing out.
Yeah.
And you're a child of God, you're born again. And what would you normally say to the Christian community?
The Christian community, one thing I want to say first is in two places. The first is the parents. The Bible says prayer without works is death. So it's good to pray. I prayed, but I did not sit down and cross my legs. I prayed, I did not reject the diagnosis. What helps our children very, very easily is acceptance. The minute they see that you can accept them, you can love them. The Bible says there are two main commandments. Love your neighbor as honor your father and your mother, and love your neighbor as yourself. That love, it surpasses everything. I was speaking to somebody this morning when she was telling me that an 18-year-old boy spoke for the first time because the teacher in his school had an interest in him and worked with him. He's now a professor in Oxford University.
Wow.
The youngest black professor in Oxford University was discipled by a teacher that said, I believe in you. They asked him why. He said, because the teacher believed in me. And that is what is needed with our children with autism. Acceptance, love, belief that they will do what they know how to do very well. For the church, my charge to the church is that the first place we run to when we're in despair is the church. And in today's Christendom, our disability community is not embraced. They feel that maybe because they have one form of disability or the other, the spirit in them does not allow, cannot learn. It doesn't work like that. Our children are also spiritual. So the church needs to connect with the families. That connection needs to come in. Don't tell them to go and pray it away. Don't tell them that you want to lay hands on them, that it will fly away. Encourage them to persevere in the place of prayer, but in the place of works as well, and in the place of thanksgiving. Because many times we want to get to the big picture, but the little progress that these children make, we miss it because our goal is for the big picture. And it's from those little thanksgiving that creates opportunity for the children to open up more and more and more till they get to a place where we would, be encouraged, and the place where we desired, and the place where God has placed them. God has placed them in our lives so that we also can learn to be patient and understand that many times things don't go the way in which we plan. God's ways are not our ways. His thoughts are way far from our own thoughts. His plans are not necessarily our own plans, and we must align with that. Children with autism teach us that.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Dotun, for what you do, and especially for coming to share all of this with us here on this program. By the way, all the time you've been talking, on the screen has been information for people, whether it's your website at the time you mentioned and all of that. So we want to encourage our viewers, even now as I speak on the screen, my information of how you can get in touch with Patrick's Speech and Language Center here in Ikeja in Lagos. I'll get straight to their resource page and get all the things you need to get. Thank you so much, Dotun, for what you do.
Thank you very much.
And I pray that many, many more people will not only be helped by what you do, but be inspired to help many other people. Would you have a last word, just in 10 seconds, to say to our viewers?
Okay, my last word is, there's something I didn't mention. At Patrick's, when we saw that services are quite expensive, we started Pure Souls Learning Foundation. and that is our sister organization. And with that, we've been able to give scholarships to families that struggle to pay fees, to come to the center. Right now, we have about almost 20 families that we are supporting.
Wonderful. So we have on the on the screen also information of how you can access and get more details about Pure Souls Learning Foundation.
And parents should not be discouraged. It is not a death sentence. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. You must be patient. You must run the race. But at the end of it, there's always a prize. So don't be discouraged.
Amen. Thank you, Dotun, for believing and for helping other people believe that there is a seed and a gift in every child.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll see you next week. Bye. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody. Positive for coming on the show. And thank you for joining us.
I decided to whisper it.